everybody, welcome to my residency. So I'm going to be your Grandmaster in residence for the next 2 weeks, so you're gonna have a lot of fun with me on YouTube, on Twitch, if you're here in person. So thank you for being here, everybody. I see a few faces. It's too bright so I can't see everybody. But so for today, I was just going through, since it's called the Grandmaster's Choice, I was just looking through some of the favorite books that I have, or favorite chapters that I've read. And there's this one book that I recommended to one of my students recently, Brian, or Chess Bonzo. And it was it's chess secrets, and there's a dynamic, there's a giants of power play, there's a giants of strategy. I like both of them, and it's very well explained. It has a lot of commentary. It's just so well thought out, and I really like it. So when I first started teaching, because I was still trying to find my style, I kind of went back and forth between those books a lot. But now I was kind of looking through, I'm like, I really like this because, and whenever I'm working with my students, I'm talking about how important piece activity is, how important having that dynamic element is. And there's literally a chapter called Dynamic Elements, so there we go. Or something about King in the Center. So my goal for tonight would be to try and get 2 games in, one to show you the dynamic element, and one to show you, how to punish the opponents when they leave their king in the center. So, keeping that in mind, let's go ahead and jump in. The name of the players would also be embedded in the Lichess study, and for the first game, Alekhine is going to be white. Let me double check the year. Yep, 1943. So, please feel free to jump in the chats, and also feel free to say stuff in person. Oh, before I forget, I forgot the most important news. So for those of you who have been following my journey to get into which med school, where am I gonna go, where I'll be in 2 months, I finally know. So I'm officially in SLU, graduating from SLU, but I'm going to Mizzou. We'll figure out the chess team stuff later, if/when, but I'm officially going to be a med student there, and I put on the deposit. I'm looking for moving stuff, so if you guys wanna, I don't know, say congratulations or come up with a drink or something, that'll be cool. All right, yes, I'm ready to jump in. Ready to jump in? All right, cool. So dynamic element, let's see how Alekhine teaches his opponents. Fair warning, I've always played either Grand Prix or the real stuff. I've played Smithmore a little bit, so I've never really played Alapin, so just know that this is not my expertise in the opening. However, I have a feeling the opening might have changed a little in the last, 60, 50, 70 years. So this is 1943. Quick question, does anybody here or there play Alapin as white, as black? I see some. A little bit. Okay, nobody? Before. That's fair. All right, well, that's totally cool. It doesn't have to be a very, it's sharp, but this is something I was also talking to in my camp kids the previous hour. We were talking about, how important it is to know your openings. Even if you play a weird gambit, you gotta know it. You have to know what you're doing in the opening. So for those of you who don't leave just yet. Make sure to finish watching the stream, then go and review your openings or create a nice opening repertoire. Something that goes with your style or something that you find comfort in, but you need to know it. You need to know the pawn structure, which side you're going to castle, how you're going to do stuff in center, which we're going to actually see in this opening a little bit too. Now, quick question. White has a decent center, right? But if take, we are gonna have a bunch of stuff happening in the center, right? Isolated pawn, for example. So let's talk about that for a minute. Anything that would worry you And since it's probably going to be isolated pawns, how do you think black should set up? How do you think white should set up? Let's start with, do you think anybody will be castling long side?
No.
I agree. I don't think anybody is going to be dreaming about long castle. So probably there's going to be a bunch of fights against this pawn, right? See, they can try to attack it this way. We're going to be trying to defend it this way. There's going to be a bunch of attacks and defenses. What are the big things that we know about isolated pawns? Especially isolated, the queen gambit style isolated pawn.
Be a strength or weakness.
True. So give me some of the strengths. Wait, I don't know. Who said what? Can't see anything.
Dynamic strength.
True. But, so what would be some of the strengths?
Controlling C5 and E5.
True. So it means having open C files if this has happened. So this would be open C file. So because, let me ask you this. Having isolated pawn, would you like to go to an endgame?
No.
Most likely no, I agree. So it means you want to keep more of your pieces. It means you want to create more attacks, right? So when you want to create more attacks, then you should also be working on potential kingside attacks, right? So this would be a very expensive diagonal for you. So this is already giving you some ideas. You know you want a short castle, you wish you could do this. And opponent also knows what you want to do. So they are attacking here, so you can't easily play on d3. They are piling up against your knight. So again, you can't easily play bishop d3, and you're kind of forced into playing bishop e2. I wouldn't say forced into, but kind of forced into, honestly. Because if you don't play it, what are you going to do with this bishop? Go bishop d3? Well, that kind of feels a little blundery. So, yeah. So bishop e2, they take, we take. And e6 was played. Logical, right? What do you think is a good move for white right now?
Knight C3.
Yeah, I agree. And what do you think is a good idea for black? Should they move this queen or can they develop?
Bishop E4.
I agree. Now, again, they're pinning us, but I don't think it's a serious pin because if they take, we'll just take back. And I've always found more comfort in having these like hanging pawns that I can push around rather than an isolated pawn. I'm not opposed to isolated pawns, but I've always had more fun with hanging pawns, personally. So I would love for them to take me. So what do you think is a good idea now?
A3.
Could be, but the main thing is that we have isolated pawn. We're right about to castle. They still need to get the knight out and castle. So we would want to continue our little punches. I feel like a kangaroo right now. But we want to continue poking them. We want to continue our kicking and fighting and biting and all those funny dynamic stuff. So we want to castle because now I'm attacking. Now either you have to take or you have to move the queen. If you move the queen, then, I mean, I'm kind of happy because first things first, well, your queen is no longer blocking my pawn. Second thing, you still need to move this knight. And finally, if you don't move it, if you take it, then I get my hanging pawns and I could start here, I could start attacking here, and you gain the momentum, and that would be very great. So in the game, black went queen a5. What do you think is a good idea for white? Again, keep in mind, black, if you give black a move or two, they are going to do this. So what do you think we should do now? And keep in mind, king is in the center, so, and also keep in mind this is kind of called, the topic of the conversation is dynamic elements. So we want to be gaining tempos, we want to be attacking. You already have like a mini hand. I like that, but you can attack something a little more tasty.
Give the bishop a hit, yeah.
Sorry?
You kick the bishop out?
You want to kick the bishop out or get the bishop out?
Kick the bishop out.
Ooh, how?
A3.
I like that. What if they take you?
Take that.
True. But kind of also on like a different... Wow. Whoa. No. No. Where's the rest of my game? Uh-oh. Technology. Ouch. Hold on. I know this game is somewhere. I'm so sorry. This game was here. And I know in the game it was not taken. My apologies. I'm gonna need a second to figure out where is my game. Because I remember white ends up taking, black takes here. It's kind of a weird stuff. Uh-oh. Nope, that was not it. No.
Are you sure it's not knight f6?
It's not the Alekhine's game. I mean, knight f6 looks about right, and I remember there was a take, and there was a take, and I remember this game, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah. The chess games has it knight f6 d5 before any taking happens.
I remember there is this take, but okay. Can you give that game to me? Since Lichess is not giving me my game.
How do you want it?
Anywhere I can load it on Lichess. Actually, can you go to the study and load it? Sorry. You gotta love technology, right? My apologies, everybody. This is... Sometimes Lichess plays little tricks with me. Chess Bonzo, you look like you know what to do. So, how's everybody's day going?
Not bad.
Nice.
How are you?
Oh, well, this is making my day really amazing right now.
What is your study called, Dorsa?
The same Dorsa N. And it's the 40th game. Come here. Oh man, I was so excited for this game. I looked it up and I was like, this is a 28 move game. I can get through 2 of them.
So should I just paste it here?
Yeah. If you can create a new chapter and then paste the BG in there.
Okay, is that copied? Yeah. There's no way this is gonna work though.
I wish it, I really hope it does.
No.
I want my Alekhine's game. If not, we
You know
can...
what? Yeah.
Well, thank you, James.
Where did the chess game take? Oh, it's interesting.
Also, while we're doing that, let me just make sure that the next game is here. Then why is this one playing tricks on me? Yeah, the next one is here. Also, spoiler alert. Man. Oh, something kind of fun, something to keep in mind. Tomorrow and I believe Thursday, I'm going to be doing the play the people. Ah, it's here. We're safe. Thank you, Chessbonzo / Ben Simon.
Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you. I'm also surprised Lichess didn't have this game as their master games. Somebody better than Alekhine? Who else would you call a master? All right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, knight f6, you're correct. d5 was played, and it makes sense, right? Because, okay, let me get back to the style. Let me get back in my head. I was thinking about taking, but it might be a little too early because if you play d5 after, then rook d8, right? You have already sacrificed a little bit, and we would much rather not have that sacrifice. So you want to, you're not, I'm not saying you shouldn't sacrifice. I am saying that you should be ready when you're sacrificing. So you should be at your peak. So pawn to d5 would be great, right? And the idea is if take, then we can take back. And now you are kind of stuck taking here, right? Because let's say if queen takes b4. Question, what would we do to this queen right now? And thank you everybody for staying around while we find Alekhine. Also, is it Alekhine or Alekhine? Just because when I grew up, I just called it Alekhine, and it was like the pronunciation we used in Farsi. But I think people call it Alekhine.
It's close.
Uh-oh.
It's more like Alapin.
The what now?
Alapin's fine.
Sure. So, what do you want to do with this queen?
You try to take it away by moving rook to a.
I love it. Let's say rook a4. Queen goes d6. How are you going to continue poking around? Keep in mind, dynamic elements. We want to continue attacking, gaining tempo. 94, I think it's okay. I'm not opposed to it, especially because if take, we just take back with the rook. Bishop has to go to e6, because if take, then their queen is dropping, right? And then a part of me wants to do this, but another part of me wants to just develop. I mean, that's also development. You know what? I like it. I'll stay with it. Another idea is also take, which is if take, then I can take this guy. So I'm attacking, and this is a really awesome rook lift. I really do thoroughly enjoy this rook lift. So opponent, sorry, here black didn't take on b4. They took on a1. All right, now what do we do? Anything specific you would like to do?
Take on what is it, 5?
I'm sorry?
E5?
You want to take this?
Yeah.
The one thing that kind of concerns me with this is what if they take and then just castle? I don't think it's fast enough. If they can castle, then they're kind of safe. What else? Ideally, we would want to take it, but we need to poke around a little bit more, or try to trap this queen. Either way, I would be happy. Oh, Patrick in the chat is talking about queen b3. It is interesting. I think queen b3 is also definitely one of those cool ideas, but what if they just take it? You try to take back, then they are trying to attack you. And if they take, you don't take back, what do you say, like bishop e3 to try and attack, then they can take you. You take back, and they already ate a little bit too much material. I would much rather either trap their queen before giving this much material, or instead of trapping their queen, try to just go for their king. So queen b3 is okay, but it's not the best one. So what do you think is the best one?
Queen to a4.
Well, why would you want to exchange queens? Because you're sacrificed and you're attacking, you would ideally want to avoid exchanging unnecessarily.
Queen c3.
Where?
No, I mean c2.
That's possible, but I don't think that's fast enough. What if I just take here? Patrick in the chat, I think you have the right idea. I kind of like b5. That's not the move that Alekhine went for, because if I'm assuming if b5 take, if you take, then they can go knight e7, and if take, it's still good, but that's not the one that Alekhine went for. Alekhine kind of tried to, in all of these lines, we keep seeing this take. So then move the knight and try to get it somewhat to bother this queen.
Is it a knight to E1?
I think that could be interesting, but there is a little bit more activity. The problem with, I mean, knight e1, the problem is take, and then if you take with the queen, they block it, and even if you go knight to c2, their queen can try to run. Instead of knight e1, well, how about knight to d2? You have the similar idea, you want to go around and attack the queen. If they take, you take with check, they block, but now, because if your knight was on e1, then your bishop would be under attack, right? Since your knight is on d2, your bishop is not under attack, so you're not obligated to attack the queen and kind of push it away. Now you can come up with a cooler idea. So what do you think is that cooler idea? I like that. What's better than threatening checkmate? And black here kind of has the castle. I can't really think of a different way to start. I mean, maybe knight g8. But I mean, if you have to play knight g8, that's just too cool. I mean, I would love that. Opponent kind of has the castle. And after castle, now what? Yes, this is technically a hanging knight, but if they take it, what if they just go rook e8? So that would be problematic. What else? We would love to be able to eat that knight because that would give our material back. And if you think about it, we would have exchanged we would have given up a rook for, if we managed to eat this knight, we would have given up a rook for a bishop and a knight. And we would have given up a rook and a pawn for a bishop and a knight, which is totally good. Because it's about piece activity. It's not necessarily about, ooh, rook is 5 points, pawn is 1 point, knight and bishop are 6. You can also think about it that way, but that's not the most efficient way. It really, really depends about the position. So
Knight e3.
I like that. Queen will definitely go to a6, because if not, it's bye-bye queen.
Then exchange and then take the knight.
Yeah, quite simple, right? Now, let's say here opponent is trying to decide how to continue. I'm actually going to put you in that shoes. Black to move. What do you want to do? Actually, what can you do? Would anybody actually want to be black here?
Rook b8, I guess.
That's logical, right? Because black has to create some sort of counterattack, and rook b8 would be attacking pawn. Rook e8 would also be an interesting choice to try to get rid of the rooks, but it's just so uncomfortable. I mean, you have a checkmate in one thread. Ha ha ha. I'll just move my king away, and I mean, I'm still gonna come up here. I'm still gonna attack this, or I'm still gonna come up here, attack this, or I'm gonna come here, attack this. That's kind of why we're talking about the dynamic elements. So this won't happen. This won't really work with rook to e8. Rook e8 won't really solve any of black's problems. So black in the game runs rook b8, attacking this little guy. What do you think we should do? We have multiple choices. I personally kind of like one of them a little bit more than the others. So
After the pawn on what is it? A7.
You could take that. If you take that, they'll take here, and you could try and eat over here, and now, well, you drop a little. So, let me rephrase that, sorry. You can try and go after pawns, but if you do that, your opponent starts to kind of attack you a little too. So I like your idea of wanting to go after pawns, but you can't really save this guy unless you play knight a2, which I don't really want to. It just feels weird to play knight a2 to defend one pawn. So why not b5? Now that they take, okay, now take back, and nobody's attacking your knight. I know that we're not technically winning a pawn in that situation, but we would still be keeping our momentum, and the opponent is still not attacking us, and we're still hoping to get active, still get active, still attack. So I would prefer opponents to not have an open file, like if we took first. This situation I would have like some sort of attack, right? And I don't want to spend another move moving the knight, and they can attack this guy again. So you see, it's kind of a, you want to take away that potential for momentum away. Alright, so b5, take. Now opponent played b4. Where do you think is a good spot for the knight?
A4.
Could be nice, but knight e2 makes a lot of sense as well, because we want to be able to block over here. No? So let's say they go now rook c8. Now what? What is a potential problem with your position?
Okay.
Exactly. Fix it.
F3.
Yeah. The reason behind f3 is both the back rank, and we want to include the king, and we want to stop potential funny stuff with their knight. So we're like hitting multiple goals. I was gonna go with hitting two birds with one stone, but I never understand the concept of why would anybody want to hit birds with stones. So yeah. So fix your back rank, get your king in the game, and take away a bunch of their squares. Now they're offering a rook exchange. Yay or nay?
No.
That's a nay? I mean, I think honestly either one is fine. But what is your personal preference? One thing that I've noticed with a lot of my students is that they are so not fan of endgames. Like specific endgames. Like whenever they want, like there's exchange, they would, if they're playing for win, they don't want to exchange. Which is fair, but if you trust your skill sets in endgames, then you don't mind going to endgame. So, kind of pros and cons here. You don't have to exchange, rook b7 is totally fine too, but if you are the type of person who would take it, well, Alekhine made the same choice here. Alright, now what? Thomas, I'm neglecting to ask, but I think I have to. What time is it where you're at? Alright. White to move, what do you think we should do? Shall we just get the king involved, or can we try to do some funny business with our bishop? I like bishop g5. I don't think there's anything specifically wrong with it, but if we do that, then we are leaving this poor guy behind. So it could be a new target. So why not just get the king out? I'm not entirely sure if I want to bring the king all the way up here, but I'm sorry, I'm hearing some cool music. I can't figure out where it's coming from. Not that I'm complaining, but if there's a nice jazz, I feel like I should be in the mood for it. Alright. Well, what now? Oh, I would love to be able to eat this pawn. Can we make that happen? I am a little hungry, not kidding. It's been a long day. Patrick is saying, looks like an easy win. Get the king in now. There's no mate. That's fair. Pawns are weak. Also true. Slow improvement. White has one additional piece. I mean, technically you're right. Because you have that additional piece, it means your pieces can work better together also. So let's see. How can we make that happen?
Can we move knight to F4?
I like that. They have to try and defend it. Now what? You're coming back here?
Sorry, bishop to E3.
Oh, I mean, I think, yeah, bishop e3 is totally fine. I think bishop e3 is nice. Even if knight c4, you can just bring the bishop to d4. I'm totally fine with that. Good job. King e3 was played in a specific game, and just putting the king in front of the pawn and activating the king, because in endgames it's so important to have your king active, because king is, you know, usually if you're like, oh, kings, you gotta tuck them away, but that's not necessarily true when it comes to endgames. In endgames, we would want to use our kings. It's a piece that's gonna take squares away from opponent and it's gonna attack around. Now, there are some endgames that, you know, we would want to avoid that, but usually the way people think about endgame is like, endgame is a phase of the game that is kind of safe for your king to join the party. So, not necessarily true all the time, because I have gotten weird checkmates in the end game. But, alright, let's say black is still trying to kick and fight and stuff. What do you do now? I mean, I feel like you have to move the knights, and where would you want to go? You definitely can. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but why not knight h5? Attack over here, might want to give check here. Thank you, Patrick. There's an official request from Patrick for party king emote. I'm not opposed to it. I've relayed the message. We'll see how that'll turn out. Yeah, knight h5 makes sense, and black here just resigned because, like, what can they do? Like, h6, well, awesome. I'll just give a check. You'll move your king, and I can even develop and attack you. If you take, awesome. I'll just take this guy too. And my two pieces and king are just way more active than your king and your rook, and I will be eating your pawns. To be fair, I don't think, I mean, yes, white has definitely advantage, and white will most likely win this game unless they blunder. But I would still kind of vote for continuing a little bit more. Although, to be honest, if I was playing Alekhine, I probably would have resigned too. But this is a very, very uncomfortable game. And it all kind of started from the, first of all, opening choice. Second of all, this really cool sacrifice idea. Because, you know, people might think you can't take it. They'll eat your rook, right? Because this pawn is pinned. But that's not true. You want to take it. You want to make sure this queen is moving a bunch of times. Keep in mind, the queen came to d5 early on. Then it went to a5. Then it went to a1. Then again, after a few moves, we attacked it. It had to go back. So it's a bunch of tempos. And that's another reason why it's like the cliche of don't bring your queen too early. It's kind of true. It's, again, depending on the position, depending on the opening, but for the most part, it is true, because if you bring your queen out too early, it's very easily accessible, and opponent develop, attack it. Queen move. Again, opponent develop, attack it. So it would be ideal to avoid that from happening. All right, this game was really awesome. Thank you for staying around, because we definitely I did not see that coming. Anyways, I'm gonna jump into another kind of cool game. This is a game that Geller played as white against Stean. I will probably be mispronouncing this, so I apologize. It was played in 1975. Again, you should have access to this study because I usually add all my material to the same study until there's no more room left, and then I'll open a new study. All right. I'm gonna go a little faster through the opening, but we're still gonna talk about it. First question that I have: who here plays the Maroczy bind? Didn't start as Maroczy, but it definitely turned into it. Anybody play this as white or black? I'll give it a minute to see how the chat is feeling. Well, to be honest, it did not have to turn into the Maroczy bind. Usually, the way I get Maroczy bind is through this. Maybe knight c6 first, actually. This is usually how I get my Maroczy bind. But in this game, it happened this way. And it's still the same idea, right? Exactly. It's also from Sicilian. Yep. That's how I usually get my Maroczy bind. And some of the big ideas are, first things first. Whenever black has control over the g4 square, bishop e3s, you need to be prepared, because if I played bishop e3 now, then knight g4 can get a little yucky. So be careful with that. I'm very more used to bishop g7s, then I bishop e3 it, and if d6, then I bishop e2 to defend it. Kind of transposes, but still. So you want to be careful about your move order. And alright, now, question. Is there anybody gonna long castle here? White or black?
No.
I agree. It's highly unlikely, because if either one of them do long castle, then it's just going to be really weak. So no to long castle, and I support that suggestion. Now, let's say here, what do you think is a good idea for white? We want a short castle, that's fair. They want a short castle, that's also fair. But the thing is, if we castle, then they castle. And it's a little too easy. I want to create troubles for my opponents. How can I create some potential troubles for my opponents? While you're thinking about that, I'll give you a little bit of an idea. I don't remember which students, because man, I've been teaching a lot. But recently I was looking at one of my students' games, and in this game, like, opponent brought their bishop and pinned their knight. And I was like, well, I kind of want to resolve that pin really quickly. I would really want to go like pawn h3, attack the g4 bishop, and just be like, okay, so what that bishop wants to do. Either they want to take the knight, which is fine, I'm prepared for that, this is good for me, or they're gonna go back and keep the pin, which is also fine, or they have to, you know, stop the pin. So the fact that you would give your opponent that choice sometimes kind of messes with their head, because it is sometimes they just mess up. Sometimes they stop the pin. Sometimes they take the knight too early. Or sometimes they make weird blunders. So my point being, a huge part of chess is not just about your good moves, it's also about giving your opponent the opportunity to mess up. So keeping that in mind, what do we do? Well, I have a thing in the chat. Somebody wants to play pawn to g4. It looks fun, but man, I don't have that big of a courage.
You're gonna move your knight to b5.
Well, what are you attacking there?
Thinking about going after the pawn below the rook.
You could, but that doesn't really interfere with opponent's mistake abilities. My thought is, if you go up here, what if I just go, even if I just go pawn a6, you have to come back and you lose a tempo. Even if you could eat here, there's always this type of checks. It doesn't, the move knight b5 doesn't really go with the rhythm of the position. Knight d5 looks kind of interesting, but again, doesn't really go with the rhythm of the position. They're still going to castle. What about bishop g5? They should still castle. And if they castle, now they might want to move the knight somewhere. Well, maybe not d5, but somewhere. Okay, maybe not take here either. But if they move the knight, then they're attacking our queen, right? So let's say that they should have castled. And then if they do, then probably moving the queen away from this diagonal would have been wise. But in the game bishop g5, black didn't castle. Black played bishop e6, attacking here. Now what do you think we should do? I'll give you a hint. In this game, black actually continued to make little mistakes after mistakes of not castling, which meant for us that we got the chance to keep the king in the center and attack it. So try to think of kind of attacky moves. It doesn't have to be a crazy, like I'm gonna go c5, e5, h4, not that thing that's crazy. You want to do calm moves, developing moves. Dude, I just said no crazy moves. I'm getting a bunch of f4s and c5s and e5s in the chat. Knight d5 still a little cray-cray. Well, castle is normal. That's fair. I agree. But this is a weird thing to explain. I feel like if I castle, then my opponent will remember, oh yeah, I should castle too. I don't think that was the exact way that Geller was thinking about it. But if opponent is not castling and I don't have to castle, if I castle, then it feels like I'm being like, yeah, you should castle too. This reminds me, like in over the board tournaments, there's usually a clock, right? So like when you make a move, you press the clock. But sometimes I've had opponents who wouldn't press the clock. They would forget. And usually I would remind them, hey, you didn't press your clock. And then at some point I was like, wait, why am I doing this? Their time is running out. So if you castle, it kind of feels like you're reminding your opponent, yo, castle, you press your clock. No, don't be nice. Alright, so what now? Okay, I'm getting more like rook moves. Okay, rook d1 looks interesting. What about rook c1? Because if you do castle, then this rook could be fun on d1. So rook c1, I'm kind of fond of it. Again, opponent should be castling, but opponent is not. Queen a5. They're attacking my bishop. What should I do? Now we can't really castle. f4 still feels...
Is it e5?
Still, well, what if they take it though? I don't want my opponent to be happy. The suggestion of f4 is also interesting, but what if they go h6? Why not? Okay, this seems to be a problem, this diagonal. Just move your queen away from it, defend this. You might have some potential knight d5 ideas later on, because then their queen would be loose. So could be nice to do knight d5. Here again they should be castling, but they're not. They play rook c8. Seems like they want to eat your pawn. Now what?
Knight to, what is that, e4? e5?
Why?
Blocking the queen.
But we're already defending this guy.
Oh yeah, king behind my back.
You're good. I'm getting a bunch of b3s in the chat. I'm getting a few castles. I'm getting a b4. Oh mama. Yeah?
Knight d5.
Knight d5 is an idea, but think of it this way. If they've already taken here, and then you do knight d5, this bishop is kind of pinned, right? So that could be like a sneak attack that you can do to the opponent. So they are threatening this, but I don't believe this is a strong attack. So can we just kind of let them attack it for no reason? I think castle here is interesting, but the problem with castle is take. Now if you go knight d5, then they could exchange it, and then this could fall. So how can you improve your knight d5 idea and kind of not let this happen? So you are laying a trap with if take knight d5. But if you go knight d5, then nobody's defending this guy. So yeah. I feel like whenever I touch the f pawn, most of my students go f3, f4, what? And that's true for the most part. But I haven't castled yet. I mean, touching f3, it doesn't really weaken my king if I don't intend to castle just yet. Also, if you're planning on doing stuff in this diagonal, I can easily come back. So f3 is, has pros and cons, but the pros outweigh the cons in this situation. You do have to be very careful when touching your f pawn, but it's not always a no-no. So, alright. Opponent here kind of made an amazing move of take. Alright, now what to do? We've already talked about it, so I'm assuming should be fun. What do you think we should do now?
Knight d5.
Yep. Knight d5 is a very common move in Maroczy. If they take, they're pretty toast. You take back with the bishop. This guy is pinned. They can't really, they could defend it, I guess, but they'll lose it sooner or later. So knight d5 is indeed a very common move in Maroczy, and I've also seen quite a lot of it in Dragon here and there. But the point being that opponent made a mistake. The opponent's biggest mistake was not castling. Just because I'm not casting doesn't mean you shouldn't. I'm gonna castle now, I do. And I think it's kind of funny because castling here was definitely not the best move. Surprisingly, knight b4 is the best move, but it's a little bit of an engine move because queen, let's say queen goes to a4. Then you take over here, then they can castle. Wait, why is this engine move? Let's just go here. What am I missing? Oh yes, that's what I was missing, e5. Yeah. But it is a little bit of an engine move, so I can understand why this was not really a fan favorite. Because, knight b4 just feels like queen b3, and you have to find e4, e5. If you don't, you can't really just take it. They'll just take back, and they're gonna have advantage. You could castle, but then they can just start attacking you around here. So you have to find e5. And e5 is definitely a bit of an engine move. So castling is completely comfortable. Now opponent took knight takes d5. And what do you think we should do now? To be fair, e takes d5 is fine, not too. But if you do that, then you're not attacking much, so black can just castle. So what do you think we should do? Hi, Tracy. Queen takes d5. What? b3. Dude, they just ate my piece. Either gotta eat this or gotta eat this. Your choices are very limited. Yeah, take the rook. Take the bishop with the rook. If you take, they can castle. I don't like that. So we have to take over here. If they take, now what? Here was the true intermezzo. What do we do now? How can we kind of punish opponent for their loose pieces, for their centralized, well, stuck in the center king?
Take the knight
With what?
with your pawn.
Aw, why pawn?
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you take with queen, you're pinning, right?
Yeah.
And you're attacking again. Yeah, exactly. In the game, rook a4 happened. And can you think of a good response to rook a4? Here, actually, white has clear advantage, but rook a4 just made things much easier.
Bishop e5.
I like it, thank you. Now what? Kind of a funny move right now. To be honest, taking is also doable, but you definitely lessen your advantage. if not lose it completely. So what else? You also don't want to exchange queens. So let me ask you a different way. What is a big problem that black has?
Queen takes b7. Right?
Hold on. What's the...
That's the right?
No, queen takes b7. What if they still give check? And then they just run up with the king. The big problem that opponent has is their king. Right? They would want to put it in safety, but they can't. What is the one piece that you have not activated yet? Yep, rook c1. Just go for the checkmate threat. If they give check, that's awesome because you can take it. And if they take back, you can check over here and kaboom. But if they give the check, you'll take it. But I'm assuming they won't. I'm kind of hoping that they resign here, which they kind of did actually. But this game by no means was a lost cause like a few moves ago. All black had to do was just castle. So, know your openings, keep your king safe, keep your piece activities to a very, very annoying level, and don't be nice to your opponent. I think those are good advice for Tuesday. I will see everybody tomorrow on Twitch from 2 to 4. Come play me. From 6:30 to 8:30, come watch me. Yeah. All right. With that, feel free to congratulate me in the comments for my Mizzou Med School acceptance and stuff like that. And thank you everybody for being here today. I will see you tomorrow.